The Maldives, an idyllic tropical paradise in the Indian Ocean, is renowned for its crystal-clear turquoise waters, white sandy beaches, and luxurious overwater bungalows. Comprising over 1,000 coral islands grouped into 26 atolls, this island nation is synonymous with serene beauty, making it a dream destination for honeymooners, divers, and beach lovers. The country's stunning natural environment is its biggest draw. The shallow lagoons, vibrant coral reefs, and abundant marine life provide some of the best snorkeling and diving experiences in the world. Swimming alongside manta rays, colorful fish, and even sea turtles in spots like Honeymoon Bay or South Ari Atoll is a. Each resort in the Maldives is set on its own private island, offering a level of exclusivity and luxury rarely found elsewhere. Guests can indulge in world-class spas, fine dining on the beach, or romantic dinners under the stars. Overwater villas are a signature feature, providing direct access to the ocean, where guests can wake up to the sound of gentle waves and breathtaking tundra. The capital, Male, Pihukuru Miski Male Fish Market. However, most travelers quickly head to the ISL. The Maldives is also a heaven for water sports enthusiasts. Beyond diving and snorkeling, visitors can enjoy kayaking, paddleboarding, windsurfing, and even underwater dining. For those seeking a unique experience, the glowing bioluminescent beaches for. With its unparalleled natural beauty, luxurious accommodations, and sense of seclusion, the Maldives offers the ultimate getaway for those looking to relax, reconnect with nature, and enjoy. Maldives, independent island country in the north-central Indian Ocean. It consists of a chain of about 1,200 small coral islands and sandbanks, some 200 of which are inhabited, grouped in clusters, or atolls. The islands extend more than 510 miles 820 kilometers from north to south and 80 miles 130 kilometers from east to west. The northernmost atoll is about 370 miles 600 kilometers south-southwest of the Indian mainland, and the central area, including the capital island of Male, is about 400 miles 645 kilometers southwest of Sri Lanka. The Maldives, officially the Republic of Maldives and historically known as the Maldive Islands, is a country and archipelagic state in South Asia in the Indian Ocean. The Maldives is southwest of Sri Lanka and India, about 750 kilometers 470 miles, 400 nautical miles from the Asian continent's mainland. The Maldives chain of 26 atolls stretches across the equator from Ihvandipulo Atoll in the north to Adu Atoll in the south. The Maldives is the smallest country in Asia. Including the sea, the territory spans roughly 90,000 square kilometers 35,000 sqmi, with a land area of 298 square kilometers 115 sqmi. The Maldives is one of the world's most geographically dispersed sovereign states, and the smallest Muslim country by land area. With a population of 515,132 in the 2022 census, it is the second least populous country in Asia and the ninth smallest country in the world by area, but also one of the most densely populated countries in the world. Male is the capital and the most populated city, traditionally called the King's Island, where the ancient royal dynasties ruled from its central location. The Maldivian archipelago is located on the Chagos, Laccadive Ridge, a vast submarine mountain range in the Indian Ocean. This also forms a terrestrial ecoregion with the Chagos archipelago and Lakshadweep. The Maldives has an average ground level elevation of 1.5 meters 4 feet 11 in above sea level, and a highest natural point of only 2.4 meters 7 feet 10 in, making it the world's lowest lying country. Some sources state the highest point, Mount Willingili, as 5.1 meters or 17 feet. The Maldives has been inhabited for over 2,500 years. Documented contact with the outside world began around 947 AD when Arab travelers began visiting the islands. In the 12th century, partly due to the importance of the Arabs and Persians as traders in the Indian Ocean, Islam reached the Maldivian archipelago. The Maldives was soon consolidated as a sultanate, developing strong commercial and cultural ties with Asia and Africa. From the mid-16th century, the region came under the increasing influence of European colonial powers, with the Maldives becoming a British protectorate in 1887. Independence from the United Kingdom came in 1965, and a presidential republic was established in 1968 with an elected People's Majlis. The ensuing decades have seen political instability, efforts at democratic reform, and environmental challenges posed by climate change and rising sea levels. The Maldives became a founding member of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. The Maldives is a member of the United Nations, the Commonwealth of Nations, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and the Non-Aligned Movement. The World Bank classifies the Maldives as having an upper-middle income economy. The Maldives is a dialogue partner of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Fishing has historically been the dominant economic activity and remains the largest sector by far, followed by the rapidly growing tourism industry. The Maldives rates high on the Human Development Index, with per capita income significantly higher than other SAARC nations. The Maldives was a member of the Commonwealth of Nations from July 1982 until withdrawing from the organization in October 2016 in protest of allegations by other nations of its human rights abuses and failing democracy. The Maldives rejoined the Commonwealth on 1 February 2020 after showing evidence of functioning democratic processes and popular support. The Maldives Islands are a series of coral atolls built up from the crowns of a submerged ancient volcanic mountain range. All the islands are low-lying, none rising to more than 6 feet (1.8 meters) above sea level. Barrier reefs protect the islands from the destructive effects of monsoons. The rainy season, from May to August, is brought by the southwest monsoon. From December to March, the northeast monsoon brings dry and mild winds. The average annual temperature varies from 76 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit 24 to 30 degrees Celsius. Rainfall averages about 84 inches 2,130 millimeters per year. The atolls have sandy beaches, lagoons, and a luxuriant growth of coconut palms, together with breadfruit trees and tropical bushes. Fish abound in the reefs, lagoons, and seas adjoining the islands. Sea turtles are caught for food and for their oil, a traditional medicine. According to legends, the first settlers of the Maldives were people known as Devis. The first kingdom of the Maldives was known as Deva Mari Kingdom. During the 3rd century BCE visit of emissaries, it was noted that the Maldives was known as Deva Mahal. During circa 1100-1166, the Maldives was also referred to as Divakuda, and the Laccadive archipelago, which was a part of the Maldives, was then referred to as Divakambar by the scholar and polymath Al-Biruni 973-1048. The name Maldives may also derive from Sanskrit Eme with Macron Garland and Dvpa Island, or Mala Divana Necklace Islands in Sinhala. The Maldivian people are called Dhivehin. The word Deep. In Tamil, Garland of Islands can be translated as Mlatvu. The Venerable Sri Lankan Chronicle Mahavamsa mentions an island designated as Mahaldiva, Island of Women, in Pali, likely arising from an erroneous translation of the Sanskrit term, signifying garland. Jan Hogendorn, Grossman Professor of Economics at Colby College, theorized that the name Maldives derives from the Sanskrit MLDVPA, meaning Garland of Islands. In Malayalam, Garland of Islands can be translated as Maladvipu. In Kannada, Garland of Islands can be translated as Maladvipa. None of these names are mentioned in any literature. However, classical Sanskrit texts dating back to the Vedic period mention the 100,000 Islands, Lakshadvipa, a generic name which would include not only the Maldives but also the Laccadives, Aminidivi Islands, Minicoy, and the Chagos Island groups. Medieval Muslim travelers such as Ibn Battuta called the islands Maldibi with Macronti from the Arabic word mal, palace, which must be how the Berber traveler interpreted the name of Male, having been through Muslim North India, where Perso-Arabic words were introduced to the local vocabulary. This is the name currently inscribed on the scroll in the Maldives state emblem. The classical Persian Arabic name for the Maldives is Deepjat. The Dutch referred to the islands as the Maldivische Eilanden, while the British anglicized the local name for the islands first to the Maldives Islands and later to Maldives. In a conversational book published in 1563, Garcia de Orta writes, "I must tell you that I have heard it said that the natives do not call it Maldiva. In the Malabar language, Nale means four and Diva island. So that in that language, the word signifies four islands, while we, corrupting the name, call it Maldiva." The local name for Maldives by the Maldivian people in Dhivehi language is Dhivehi Rajya. In the 6th, 5th century BCE, the Maldives already had their kingdoms. The country has an established history of over 2,500 years according to historical evidence and legends. The Mahavamsa has records of people from Sri Lanka emigrating to the Maldives. Assuming that cowrie shells come from the Maldives, historians believe that there may have been people living in the Maldives during the Indus Valley Civilization 3300-1300 BCE. A number of artifacts show the presence of Hinduism in the country before the Islamic period. According to the book Kit Afi Evit Macron Thevit Macrona Mdhu Alkdima on the ancient ruins of Medu, written in the 17th century in Arabic by Allama Dhahmad Shahabuddin Allama Shihabuddin of Medu in Adu atoll, the first settlers of the Maldives were people known as Davis. They came from the Kalibanga in India. The time of their arrival is unknown, but it was before Emperor Asoka's kingdom in 269-232 BCE. Shahabuddin's story tallies remarkably well with the recorded history of South Asia and that of the copper-plate document of the Maldives known as Lomafanu. The Mapanansa, the copper plates on which recorded the history of the first kings of the Maldives from the Solar dynasty, were lost quite early on. A 4th century notice written by Ammianus Marcellinus 362 CE speaks of gifts sent to the Roman Emperor Julian by a deputation from the nation of Divi. The name Divi is very similar to Devi, who were the first settlers of Maldives. The ancient history of the Maldives is told in copper plates, ancient scripts carved on coral artifacts, traditions, language and different ethnicities of Maldivians. The first Maldivians did not leave any archaeological artifacts. Their buildings were probably built of wood, palm fronds, and other perishable materials, which would have quickly decayed in the salt and wind of the tropical climate. Moreover, chiefs or headmen did not reside in elaborate stone palaces, nor did their religion require the construction of large temples or compounds. Comparative studies of Maldivian oral, linguistic, and cultural traditions confirm that the first settlers were people from the southern shores of the neighboring Indian subcontinent, including the Giravru people. Mentioned in ancient legends and local folklore about the establishment of the capital and kingly rule in Mail. A strong underlying layer of Dravidian and North Indian culture survives in Maldivian society, with a clear Elu substratum in the language, which also appears in place names, kinship terms, poetry, dance, and religious beliefs. The North Indian system was brought by the original Singhalese from Sri Lanka. Malabar and Panda seafaring culture led to the settlement of the islands by Tamil and Malabar seafarers. The Maldive Islands were mentioned in ancient Sangam Tamil literature as Munnir Pajanthivam, or older islands of three seas. The Maldives consists of 1,192 coral islands grouped in a double chain of 26 atolls that stretch along a length of 871 kilometers 541 miles north to south, 130 kilometers 81 miles east to west, spread over roughly 90,000 square kilometers 35,000 sqmi, of which only 298 kilometers 115 sqmi is dry land, making this one of the world's most dispersed countries. It lies between latitudes 1 degree S and 8 degree N, and longitudes 72 degrees and 74 degree E. The atolls are composed of live coral reefs and sandbars, situated atop a submarine ridge 960 kilometers 600 mi long that rises abruptly from the depths of the Indian Ocean and runs north to south. Only near the southern end of this natural coral barricade due to open passages permit safe ship navigation from one side of the Indian Ocean to the other through the territorial waters of the Maldives. For administrative purposes, the Maldivian government organized these atolls into 21 administrative divisions. The largest island of the Maldives is that of Gan, which belongs to Lamu Atoll or Hadhumathi Maldives. In Adu Atoll, the westernmost islands are connected by roads over the reef collectively called Link Road, and the total length of the road is 14 kilometers 9 mi. The Maldives is the lowest country in the world, with maximum and average natural ground levels of only 2.4 meters 7 feet 10 in and 1.5 meters 4 feet 11 in above sea level, respectively. In areas where construction exists, however, this has been increased to several meters. More than 80% of the country's land is composed of coral islands which rise less than 1 meter above sea level. As a result, the Maldives are in danger of being submerged due to rising sea levels. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has warned that, at current rates, sea level rise would be high enough to make the Maldives uninhabitable by 2100. The Maldives has a tropical monsoon climate AM under the Köppen climate classification, which is affected by the large landmass of South Asia to the north. Because the Maldives has the lowest elevation of any country in the world, the temperature is constantly hot and often humid. The presence of this landmass causes differential heating of land and water. These factors set off a rush of moisture-rich air from the Indian Ocean over South Asia, resulting in the southwest monsoon. Two seasons dominate the Maldives weather, the dry season associated with the winter northeastern monsoon and the rainy season associated with the southwest monsoon, which brings strong winds and storms. The shift from the dry northeast monsoon to the moist southwest monsoon occurs during April and May. During this period, the southwest winds contribute to the formation of the southwest monsoon, which reaches the Maldives at the beginning of June and lasts until the end of November. However, the weather patterns of the Maldives do not always conform to the monsoon patterns of South Asia. The annual rainfall averages 254 centimeters 100 in the north and 381 centimeters 150 in the south. The monsoonal influence is greater in the north of the Maldives than in the south, more influenced by the equatorial currents. The average high temperature is 31.5 degrees Celsius and the average low temperature is 26.4 degrees Celsius. In 1988, Maldivian authorities claimed that sea rise would completely cover this Indian Ocean nation of 1,196 small islands within the next 30 years. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's 2007 report predicted the upper limit of the sea level rise will be 59 centimeters 23 in by 2100, which means that most of the Republic's 200 inhabited islands may need to be abandoned. According to researchers from the University of Southampton, the Maldives are the third most endangered island nation due to flooding from climate change as a percentage of population. In 2008, Nasheed announced plans to look into purchasing new land in India, Sri Lanka, and Australia because of his concerns about global warming and the possibility of much of the islands being inundated with water from rising sea levels. The purchase of land will be made from a fund generated by tourism. The president explained his intentions: "We do not want to leave the Maldives, but we also do not want to be climate refugees living in tents for decades." At the 2009 international climate talks, Nasheed stated that, "For us, swearing off fossil fuels is not only the right thing to do, but it is also in our economic self-interest. Pioneering countries will free themselves from the unpredictable price of foreign oil, they will capitalize on the new green economy of the future. And they will enhance their moral standing, giving them greater political influence on the world stage." Former President Mohammad Nasheed said in 2012 that, "If carbon emissions continue at the rate they are climbing today, my country will be underwater in 7 years." He has called for more climate change mitigation action while on the American television shows The Daily Show and The Late Show with David Letterman, and hosted the world's first underwater cabinet meeting in 2009 to raise awareness of the threats posed by climate change. Concerns over rising sea levels have also been expressed by Nasheed's predecessor, Maumoon Abdul Gayoom. In 2020, a 3-year study at the University of Plymouth, which looked at the Maldives and the Marshall Islands, found that tides move sediment to create a higher elevation. A morphological response that the researchers suggested could help low-lying islands adjust to sea level rise and keep the islands habitable. The research also reported that sea walls were compromising islands' ability to adjust to rising sea levels and that island drowning is an inevitable outcome for islands with coastal structures like sea walls. Hideki Kanmaru, Natural Resources Officer with the Food and Agriculture Organization in Asia Pacific, said the study provided a new perspective on how island nations could tackle the challenge of sea level rise, and that even if islands can adapt naturally to higher seas by raising their own crests, humans still needed to double down on global warming and protection for island populations. Historically, the Maldives provided enormous quantities of cowrie shells, an international currency of the early ages. From the 2nd century CE, the islands were known as the Money Isles by the Arabs. Monetaria moneta were used for centuries as a currency in Africa, and huge amounts of Maldivian cowries were introduced into Africa by Western nations during the period of slave trade. The cowrie is now the symbol of the Maldives Monetary Authority. In the early 1970s and 1980s, the Maldives was one of the world's 20 poorest countries, with a population of 100,000. The economy at the time was largely dependent on fisheries and trading local goods such as coir rope, ambergris mavharu, and coco de mer tawakashi with neighboring countries and East Asian countries. The Maldivian government began a largely successful economic reform program in the 1980s, initiated by lifting import quotas and giving more opportunities to the private sector. At the time, tourism sector, which would play a significant role in the nation's development, was at its infant stage. agriculture and manufacturing continue to play lesser roles in the economy, constrained by the limited availability of cultivable land and the shortage of domestic labor. The Maldives remained largely unknown to tourists until the early 1970s. Only 200 islands are home to its 382,751 inhabitants. The other islands are used entirely for economic purposes, of which tourism and agriculture are the most dominant. Tourism accounts for 28% of the GDP and more than 60% of the Maldives' foreign exchange receipts. Over 90% of government tax revenue comes from import duties and tourism-related taxes. The development of tourism fostered the overall growth of the country's economy. It created direct and indirect employment and income generation opportunities in other related industries. The first tourist resorts were opened in 1972 with Bandos Island Resort and Kurumba Village. The current name is Kurumba Maldives, which transformed the Maldives economy. According to the Ministry of Tourism, the emergence of tourism in 1972 transformed the economy, moving rapidly from dependence on fisheries to tourism. In just 3.5 decades, the industry became the main source of income. Tourism was also the country's biggest foreign currency earner and the single largest contributor to the GDP. As of 2008, 89 resorts in the Maldives offered over 17,000 beds and hosted over 600,000 tourists annually. In 2019, over 1.7 million visitors came to the islands. The number of resorts increased from 2 to 92 between 1972 and 2007. As of 2007, over 8,380,000 tourists had visited the Maldives. The country has 6 heritage Maldivian coral mosques listed as UNESCO tentative sites. The largest ethnic group is Dhivehin, i.e. the Maldivians, native to the historic region of the Maldive Islands comprising today's Republic of Maldives and the island of Minikol in Union Territory of Lakshadweep, India. They share the same culture and speak the Dhivehi language. They are principally an Indo-Aryan people, having traces of Middle Eastern, South Asian, Austronesian and African genes in the population. In the past, there was also a small Tamil population known as the Giravru people. This group has now been almost completely absorbed into the larger Maldivian society but were once native to the island of Giravru Kafu atoll, which was evacuated in 1968 due to heavy erosion of the island. Some social stratification exists on the islands. It is not rigid, since rank is based on varied factors, including occupation, wealth, Islamic virtue, and family ties. Instead of a complex caste system, there was merely a distinction between noble Phulhu and common people in the Maldives. Members of the social elite are concentrated in male. The population doubled by 1978, and the population growth rate peaked at 3.4% in 1985. At the 2006 census, the population had reached 298,968, although the census in 2000 showed that the population growth rate had declined to 1.9%. Life expectancy at birth stood at 46 years in 1978 and later rose to 72. Infant mortality has declined from 12.7% in 1977 to 1.2% today, and adult literacy reached 99%. Combined school enrollment reached the high 90s. The population was projected to have reached 317,280 in 2010. The 2014 population and housing census listed the total population in the Maldives as 437,535, 339,761 resident Maldivians and 97,774 resident foreigners, approximately 16% of the total population. However, it is believed that foreigners have been undercounted. As of May 2021, there were 281,000 expatriate workers, an estimated 63,000 of whom are undocumented in the Maldives, 3,506 Chinese, 5,029 Nepalis, 15,670 Sri Lankans, 28,840 Indians, and the largest group of foreigners working in the country 112,588 Bangladeshis. Other immigrants include Filipinos as well as various Western foreign workers.